everybody having fun at Ishcon? I'm quite enjoying it. And I like North Carolina. I think I'm going to move here. Rules? No. I mean, if I don't want to answer something, I'll just say I'm not answering that. But you guys know, I mean, I kind of talk about everything. So you guys, if you see my YouTube videos, did you guys see the video today?
Yeah.
It's a good one today. Yeah.
Please do keep it respectful.
Yeah.
And with that, we can start. Sir, I saw your hand raised. Go ahead.
Wait, is this one working? Because then, can you give them the mic or have them come down there and do it? I mean, I can probably hear them, but
Yeah.
Where's this one? Wireless one?
It is a wireless one, but it's also a piece of crap wireless one.
Okay. That's
Thank you, sir.
That's all you got.
Mm-hmm.
That's as close as I can get.
Yes. So the reason why comics haven't come out recently is because it was a lot of work for me. Like I was doing self-publishing and trying to run a toy company. And while I love doing the comics, it was just a ton of work. So I was like, all right, well, we got 8 issues. We got the trade paperback. They've been selling really well. Let me see if I can get a publisher to pick it up, and then they can kind of run with it. And a couple we got really close with. One, we were like just about to sign the contract, and then they went through some changes. But that same company, I can't really say anything yet, but they are most likely the company that's going to be doing the Action Force comics. It's just a matter of when we can actually announce it and when they'll start doing it. So we tentatively have a publisher, and they'll be the ones that are going to be doing more comics. I'm very excited for it because they're overdue.
Oh, I can talk with this out there.
Oh, all right.
What do you think of the state of the industry right now with the balance between the large domestic companies, imports, and the kind of work that you and a lot of the great companies here are doing, the sort of smaller startup companies that I think are doing a lot of amazing things, but are still in competition with these larger companies?
Yeah, I was talking with someone this morning, doing a little one-on-one interview, and that'll go up on the YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. But we were talking about this very same thing, how companies like ourselves and there's other small companies out there, they're doing the best work because we don't have restrictions. We don't have a licensor to worry about and kind of make our own rules in a way. And if it works, you guys love it, then we keep doing it. Whereas the Hasbros, the Mattels, they have to follow a rule set, not just with the licensor, but their VM, which is variable margin, their profit margin, that sort of thing. So they have to stay within a certain window, and if something's not within that window, then they don't do it, or something gets dumbed down. You've heard me talk about how some items I worked on kind of got watered down because of cost reduction. So, more people are gravitating towards the smaller independent companies because we're doing better stuff. And I think now you're starting to see the bigger companies almost like they don't want to abandon the adult collector because it's a huge market, but they're not putting out as much stuff. Like if you look at it, the amount of G.I. Joe classifieds have gone down year after year. It's not me hating Hasbro, that's a fact thing. It's like you don't have to, like or dislike Hasbro to know that. It's seeing facts. Legends they're doing less of. Also like Hasbro just came out and announced that their prices for classified, Black Series, and Legends are all going to $29.99. What's an Action Force figure? $29.99. I remember when people were like, too high, prices are too high. Well, I came down, they went up. What if I'm not saying I'm doing this. What if I went down to $27.99? But I'm constantly looking at ways to do that. Like, because I don't want them to stay at 30 and I don't want them to go higher. I want to go lower. Like, but again, what you're getting from Valaverse for $30 is a totally different offering than you're getting from a Mattel or a Hasbro for $30. Now, someone's going to say licensing, sure, okay, but my quantities are lower, their quantities are higher, so the licensing should cancel that out. So therefore, we're even, and we're putting more stuff in ours than they are with theirs. It's a trend. It's gonna keep going that way. They're not gonna catch up. They're not gonna change the way they do things. You're gonna get less. At least that's my opinion. But now with imports, the import stuff's amazing. Like a lot of the modern stuff I buy now is import stuff, just because it's so good. Like it was like some Black Ops figure from like 5K Toys or something, and the soft goods and the detail in the vest and the accessories for $80. I was like, this is crazy. To the point where I sent it to my factory and I was like, can you quote this for me? Like, how much would this cost for me to do? Because, I'm always interested in what else can we do? Like, yeah, we have our $30 figures, but what if we did a maximum type Action Force offering that was bigger, more deluxe? I don't know, but I'm always thinking of what else can we do? What other offerings? So, yeah, hopefully that answered your question, but yeah, I think we're all doing the best stuff, and we're going to keep doing the best stuff. Okay.
Testing, hold on for a second.
Is it working?
One try.
So two things. One, no quoting on the $27.99. The second, please make sure your phones are on silent, please. And question.
So two questions. One, do you have any of the trade paperbacks here?
No, they've been sold out for a long time.
And then, have you thought of, have you considered cyborg style figures with add-ons, since you have some great synthetics, like the merging would be very interesting.
I do have plans to do something like that. I have this character that I designed a while ago. Because I'm thinking like, what would be the most, the best way to introduce a cyborg or like a, something like that in the line. And it's like, without going like too crazy sci-fi, like RoboCop-ish. And it's like, well, what if, you had a soldier who got hit with an IED and, maybe lost a leg or an arm, but they were replaced with some sort of robotics instead of, what we have today, which we're starting to get into that robotics territory with, with appendages. So that's kind of where I'm going with that character. So yeah, I'm working on one.
Next question.
Let's see. Two-part question. Number one, you've done some, I guess, tribute figures like Tim Kennedy and Sergeant Slaughter. Is there anybody specifically that you want to do one for? And then second question, what company, whether big or small, has been impressive you?
Okay, so the first question, I really, really want to do an Ish figure. That kind of thing, when I did like Sarge and then I did Tim Kennedy, people were like, oh, who's your next celebrity figure? And everyone thought it was going to be like this trend that I did every series. But to me, it's like if it fits. And it's like Sarge worked. Tim Kennedy kind of worked. I made an announcement about it. It's like he worked for our fan base. Like people loved him. But like his fan base didn't get on board because it's a different fan base. So if I bring anyone, it has to be like a really good fit. I want to, so actually I totally forgot about this. So at DFW in June, I will be announcing a new line, and that line does have a celebrity likeness in it. So, but it kind of fits, and I'll explain it all there at the panel. But it's a really fun one. It's not, I don't think people are going to go nuts. It's more of it was like something personal for me. Because like I really love that actor and that role he played, and I'm able to kind of bring him in this line, kind of that similar role. So that's what I'm doing with that one. So yeah, a couple weeks you'll find out. And then what was the second question?
Just whether big or small companies, are there any companies right now that are impressing you?
Well, Mondo's doing some really great stuff. We did a couple of videos where I reviewed some Mondo stuff. I wasn't crazy about their 12-inch figure, but I was incredibly impressed with that vinyl Ninja Turtle. And now I started getting those ones. I pre-ordered the Shredder, and then I ordered the other 4 turtles, the other 3 turtles. They sent me the Ray Fillet. But then they sent me another He-Man figure to review, which it improved. Well, that video is coming out in a couple weeks, so I don't want to spoil it. But they're doing really great stuff. I think they have great people working for them. It's also a slightly different offering. It's not just straight like action figures. They're doing more like pop culture, artsy type things. So for what they're doing, they're great. Mezco has been a love-hate relationship with me. Like, I got on board, I loved them. Then I bought a couple items and I was like, I'm done with them. And then, I see my friend D Amazing and he, is giving me a bunch of new ones. I'm like, I didn't get that one, I didn't get that one. Then I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay. And then I got the Indiana Jones and the Shadow and I'm like, like Godfather 3, they're just reeling me back in. So, we'll see how long that relationship lasts for. It's going to be like that crazy ex that you have. You just constantly keep going back to them. I love what Savage Crucible is doing. Awesome stuff. Their Collegiate Legends line is very, very cool. It's kind of something we all didn't see coming. The Four Horsemen do amazing stuff. I love those guys. I started to kind of dip my toe in, and I've been buying more. And I've always loved their stuff. I just didn't always buy it. But like their quality, they've always been doing great stuff. So I know people are like, oh, articulation, but it's like, look, they're giving you a really good quality figure. They give you soft goods. The deco's amazing. I'm sure I'm missing some. I'm trying to think like what I'm buying these days. The McFarlane Superpower stuff is like hit or miss with me. But yeah, I think that's all I can think of right now. As we're talking, maybe I'll think of other ones.
Just as part of that, when you talk about what do you think about Hasbro and their terrible attempt
I don't want to badmouth Hasbro. They're really great. It was, here's the thing, because with sports and video games is hard to navigate when it comes to doing toys of them. It's like I've seen some video game properties that have sold really well, and I've seen some video game properties that don't sell well. Now, it's like the Venn diagram with the 2 circles that overlap. Like, you have the video game people, you have the toy people, and then some overlap. But you're never going to get all the video game people, because I notice like video game people like vinyls or statues. Something they can sit on their gamer desk or something like that. They're not like core action figure fans. Then you have the toy fans, but it's like, okay, well, if they don't play the video game, are they really going to buy it? So you're only going to get a small portion of people overlapping. It's the same thing with sports. Now, when starting lineup hit in the 80s and 90s, it was huge because it was no one did anything, but also they were almost statuesque figures. If you like the Red Sox, you just put a whatever on your desk. Then McFarlane came and did his kind of next-gen starting lineups, and they were amazing. Like, they looked unreal. But again, statuesque kind of things, and I think that's what the sports fan wants. Now you have Hasbro thinking, okay, we'll do starting lineups, but people want highly articulated, premium quality action figures. Not really. Not the sports fan. And especially when they come out with, when they came out with a $40 or $50. 50?
They're like $5.
Well, yeah, but when they first came out, I remember the price was ridiculous. Because what they decided to do was they spent all this money on the likeness rights and the teams, but then spent a ridiculous amount of money to do all the licensing for the shoes and make sure all that was accurate. But it's like, I don't think you needed to show the Nike swoosh or the Under Armour or whatever they were doing, Adidas, like could have cut down on your price a bit, and now look what happened. They're at Ollie's. So obviously we can see that the experiment didn't work. Now the interesting thing is, would the experiment have worked at $30? Would it have worked at $25? Would it have worked at $20? Would it have worked if they went the McFarlane route and did the slug stuff? Now we see McFarlane's kind of doing that again. He's doing like the sports stuff. They don't look good though. Like I'm a huge UFC fan. I saw the UFC figures. I'm like, what happened? You were doing great figures back in the early 2000s. What happened to that level of quality? Why are your sports stuff things today like not looking as good? So yeah, I mean, you could kind of say like, well, yeah, would it have worked at 30? I don't know. I don't know if the sports fans were there. And it's like the people that were buying the McFarlane stuff, are they the same sports fan that would be buying, the Kevin Durant Hasbro? I don't know. Now, I didn't pick one up. I mean, they were in closed boxes, so you also they came with a ton of stuff from what I understand. But again, it just, some things work, some things don't. I mean, when I was at Jazzwares, Fortnite worked. Then Hasbro got it, didn't work. So what happened? Sometimes you don't know because you would need to, get a whole pool of people to find out why it didn't work. But they're never going to do that. So it's just like, oh, chalk it up to loss, and it's to Ollie's.
Anyone here before Ollie asks his question?
Do you feel like it's sort of follow up to what I asked before about your relationship with bigger companies, the import figures, that sometimes the competition actually pushes them and you, because like classified Lenny for a long time was like anti-hands. Then here you come along and you're like a ton of hands. And it's like, I know I loved it and I appreciate it. It's one of the reasons I really like your figures. They got great tolerances and tons of accessories.
Thanks.
But now they're doing more and more hands with their sets in the regular baseline sets. Do you feel like maybe that was some impact of what you're doing and maybe what companies are doing as well?
I mean, I'm not going to take credit for it. I mean, I do what I do, and if they pick parts of what I do that they like, okay. I mean, they don't have a royalty, which always bothered me. Like when I did my 6-inch line when I was at Hasbro, those figures had a ton of stuff like my Action Force figures had. Like they all had extra hands, they all had a stand, they all had extra secondaries, extra gear, extra accessories. Now I see what they're giving you, and it's like, well, there's no royalty. So they should put more in there. Like, and that's the thing. Sometimes you'll see a figure like, I think it was CoverGirl who came with a wrench. She came with just a wrench and maybe a pistol. Then you see other figures and come with a ton of stuff. And you're like, wait a second, I know you can do it. Now that's like line pricing. They're like, well, look at this figure. We think this figure might not sell as well as this figure, so put more with this figure, less with this figure. That's how they do it. I try to stick to a standard, like, okay, yes, there's always going to be figures that come with more or less than other figures, but I try to keep it around the same. Like, yes, we're always going to do, the 8 hands and the stand. Like, that's like a standard. If it warrants an extra head, cool, more gear, a backpack here and there. Now, when I see the classified stuff and everyone has a trigger finger, you're like, well, what's the point of that? And then it's like, okay, well then some figures get fists along with their trigger hands, but now it's like, okay, well, what if I don't want fists with that character? What if I want fists for this guy that you didn't offer it to me with? That's the problem. It's like, you can't just pick and choose. Like something like hands have to be standard, and it should be standard, because it's not costing really any more. If it is, it's pennies. Because when you're doing hands, you're doing it in the same mold. So you're injection molding that mold with the POM joints all in the same mold. So if you're going to do 2 hands for him anyway, you might as well do 8 hands for him. That's always been my problem. It's like, you're already tooling it. Just put more in the mold. Like, those hands have to be in a mold, not by themselves, but in a certain way to do the injection molding around the POM. So why don't you just do more hands? So that's why, like, I look at the stuff they're doing. It's like, yes, do I crap on Hasbro? Of course I do, but it's more of I'm crap on them because it's like they could give it to you, and they should give it to you, and they just don't. And their excuses are they're skirting around stuff like when people talked about the gummy weapons, like, oh well, we have to. It's age graded, so the plastic. But BS, because you can do a rigid weapon with Star Wars Black Series or Marvel Legends. You're just too lazy or just don't know how to, tell the factory to do it a certain way. It can be done. They just feed you guys like BS answers and thinking you're just going to go away. And it's like, no, because I'm going to sit here, I'm going to tell them they're wrong. Like, you can do more hands and you can do rigid weapons. There's no crap age restriction that says you can't do that, because I was doing it when I was on Marvel Legends.
Avi, you have a question?
Yeah, I think that's a question.
All right, gotta go, guys. See you later. All right, cool.
So my question is more hypothetical in this situation. Hasbro, you have your own military line, G.I. Joe classified. If Hasbro reached out to you and said, hey, we want you to make our G.I. Joe figure, would you do it? And why?
Well, yeah, of course I would do it. I mean, G.I. Joe has always been my all-time favorite brand ever as a kid. It's like I had a room in my house, my G.I. Joe room. I have every single G.I. Joe item. Like, I love G.I. Joe. People might think I hate G.I. Joe, but I love G.I. Joe. But it's, yes, if they said, hey, do you want to license G.I. Joe, or do you want to, hire you to do them? In a heartbeat, in an absolute heartbeat. You know why? Because I look at it as like, I want to be able to give you guys what you should be getting. Like, yeah, we can do the nostalgia stuff, but also it's like, the nostalgia stuff is the low-hanging fruit. I would want to do what I had planned for my 6-inch Joe line. I want to go the Pursuit of Cobra route. But also, it's your IP. You can create new characters. That's what's mind-blowing to me, is they're doing 47 Snake Eyes. When you think back to the Real American Hero line, you didn't have a Snake Eyes and a Duke and a Cobra Commander in every series. It was like every 2 or 3 years, maybe one, you'd sprinkle one of those characters in. So the fact that they're doing so many, it's like, that's not what, like, Kirk and Ron, those guys paved the way for. It's like, make new characters. And I know that they tried with, like, a few characters here and there, and but they made, like, kind of boring characters. Like, make compelling characters. That's what they were doing in Real American Hero. You'd have all new characters, and then Series 2, it's like, okay, carry forward one character and they make all new characters. Same thing, Series 3. It's like, all right, well then, you're bringing in another Cobra Commander, but it's all new characters. Look how many characters they made. You can make so many new ones if you had the imagination. Again, there's no licensor, no royalty. Why are you not creating your own characters? Like, yeah, you don't have any animation, but that shouldn't stop you from creating your own characters. It's like, people didn't know Action Force, they didn't know Condor and Rollout, but it's like they sold really well. So it shows that people can get behind, one, a cool figure, and two, a cool character. Just have, faith in what you're doing to create that stuff. That's what I would push to do if I got to do, the G.I. Joe license.
To branch off of that, I understand that we use a lot, right, to cover the cost.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, instead of making 5 of the same character within 2 years, what's stopping a company like that to create other characters, other than the standard BS? What's stopping them to create the other Joe characters? And then maybe in a year or two go back to those other characters and reuse them. Is that standard practice in the business?
It's not really standard. It's just, to me, it's confusing. Because it's like, I saw what they were doing when the line first came out. They were doing the gold armor, the Nerf guns, And then they were like, all right, well, that's not really working. And they started leaning into the nostalgia look, which, cool. It's always going to sell. But eventually, you're going to run out of those cool nostalgia characters. And then you're going to get to, like, the C and D level characters. Like, look, I love Crystal Ball. I love Raptor. We're the weirdos, Like, those aren't great characters. Like, I see Raptor on clearance at Target by my house. And it's like, when Crystal Ball comes out, I know he was an exclusive or something, but again, like, when you go heavy into nostalgia, I don't think it's a smart move. That's why, like, Pursuit of Cobra was my all-time favorite era of G.I. Joe. Because they modernized the characters and made them awesome. They looked so good. So I would like to see them have more freedom to do that. Again, I'm not saying that, there's someone there saying they can't do it, because there's really no one really that knows the Joe brand there anymore to say, no, just do classic or just do this. It's just, I think they're like, well, this works, nostalgia works. Okay, does it? But maybe do something a little more, something different. So, yeah, I don't know.
Let's have Kevin and then go back. Kevin?
Do you have any plans to do older style soldiers for action force?
Wait for the panel at DFW. I teased something a few weeks ago.
One follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is there a line or a property or an idea that you would love to do, but you don't think is financially possible?
Well, I would love to do Exo Squad. Like, love it. I've talked to the guy who owns Exo Squad. But if you were to do Exo Squad, you couldn't really do it the way it was done then. I mean, you can do anything. But one, I don't know if I would want to do it exactly how the original Playmates line was. Because I don't think that's a scale people want right now. And, I've done some mech suit videos thinking about a mech suit I want to do. So it's like you do it at 6-inch scale, but then you do it at 6-inch scale, you're looking at a higher price. So it's, what's the right move to do when it comes to, a mech suit? Now, again, though, if I got Exo Squad, I wouldn't want to just do the low-hanging nostalgia stuff. I'd want to bring in Exo Squad into Action Force and say, this is the mech suit unit of Action Force. Like, I'd always want to tie it back to Action Force in some way. And, like I have a license that I'm going to announce at DFW also that I just signed, that it's not going to be part of Action Force, but it'll be branded with Action Force, because it's like, Action Force is synonymous with Valaverse. Can't talk about one without the other. So it's like, it's our flagship brand, it's always going to be there. So, but yeah, that's how I would do an Exo Squad license if I were able to get it.
So I know with Atlas, you introduced a big butt. Are
Yep.
you going to be releasing add-on packs like with the different style of?
Yeah, stuff to fit that big body. Yeah. I know, because he's kind of a one-off. So that was my way of introducing the big body. You'll see at the DFW panel, there's another big figure coming. So yeah, I'm getting to the point where I'll be able to start introducing more. It's going to take some time, but yes. Obviously it's like, I'm never going to let something go and just be like, it's just a one-off. I'm always going to make gear and stuff for all the options.
Have there been thoughts of a larger buck steelbook?
I mean, we have the large body now. I don't see why we couldn't put it on there. So, maybe. I haven't thought about it yet, but it's, sure, it could be done.
I know you didn't ask this before, but as a former medic, where's our medics?
So I was working on a medic, and then I heard a story about somebody, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing story. And again, I'm trying to work a licensing agreement out with them to get them into the line as the medic, because I was like, their story is so amazing that they would be perfect as the medic. So, I kind of was ready to get that figure going, and I was like, wait, let me hold back, because I want to see if I can make this happen, which would make the character even better. So yeah, working on a medic. Yep.
Are there kinds of accessory packs planned, holsters, vests, sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of, and it's in the early stages of thinking, but we did the tin with all the weapons, and I was like, what if we did a tin, but it was vests and belts this time? So I'm looking at that to kind of anniversary that tin item, and I was like, well, what if we did a tin that had a basic trooper and a bunch of vests and belts? Would you like that? Okay, cool. So, it's on my to-do list. I have a huge to-do list of the items. I'll think of an item and I'll email myself, here, do this item. I email myself 3 or 4 times here alone because I thought of stuff. And then I start thinking about it, I start putting it together and seeing where it could fit in the line, and that's kind of how it comes about.
I have another question.
I think you met your quota.
That was 3, remember? So, Charlie, what you're going to do right now. So my question is, you've worked with the Gemma Foundation for breast cancer awareness. Has there been any other foundation you work with in the future or any other awareness talks?
I've gotten asked that a lot because people really liked what I did with that, and it went to a good cause. We raised a lot of money for that foundation. Now, people have suggested do something for maybe testicular cancer or PTSD. So I'm trying to think of what would be a really good option to go with for the next one. I'm not saying we're going to have one for this year. Maybe it'll be something for next year. But I want to keep doing those. I want to keep doing something that raises money for a good cause. I think it's really important to use the success of the line to help out others. See, I'm not a mean guy all the time.
Who called you a mean guy?
Oh, that's what I hear.
So now, question with, like you're talking about examining, basically a trooper member maybe. Would there be the possibility, I know typically with your trooper members you have Valla heads, both, different races, but would you consider doing any, maybe generic characters, like some generic heads that would allow, if you're, having them kind of outside of all of the gear without the mask?
So I was working on a project and I had a bunch of heads sculpted up, like generic heads. But then I saw the heads and I'm like, ooh, that guy would make that, he would make a good character, and then he would make a good character. So I see the heads, but I'm like, I really want to make them core characters. I don't want to just make a generic guy. So to me, it's like, I want to keep doing the kind of the masked, guys, and save the real heads for like real characters. I'm not saying I'm never going to do that. I'm just saying I fall in love with the sculpts that are done. And I'm like, all right. Then I backtrack and I change plans. Huh?
You're sculpting too good.
It's not me, it's my sculptors. I just kind of give them the direction.
I want to write off that question here. Years ago, some company offered the head scan of your images, and it turned out so great that it was dismantled a year later. So I'm thinking, now that the technology is up there, have you ever thought about combining that service, or is that something that you want to touch on?
It's not something I really care to go down, like a road I care to go down. The technology has come a long way. I don't think it is there yet. Shoot, man, I remember this was like 2016. The guy in the office next to me at Hasbro, he was in charge of the face scan project. I remember back then I was like, I don't think you guys are ready for this yet. Like, it's not there. It's not there. And then it wasn't until how many years later they tried to do it. And it's just, to me, now for those of you who watch my videos, listen to the podcast, I'm not a big advocate for 3D printed stuff. There's amazing, talented people out there doing 3D printed stuff. To me, it's always just going to be 3D printed. There's nothing, you can't say 3D printing is close to plastic. It is not. It's night and day to me, at least to me. The tolerances, the feel, the look, all of it. 3D printing, you got to paint. I guess you can 3D print in flesh tone, but to me, as someone who's looking, I'm always going to see the lines. No matter how good a PLA you use or how good your printer is, you're always going to see those step lines. Because it's the process. It's the printer going back and forth, and it's layering and layering and layering. Whereas plastic is shot and injected right into a mold, and it's all smooth. Yes, you're going to have parting lines for when the mold fits together, but a lot of those can virtually go away. So, I don't think we're going to be able to get to a point where we're doing really good head scans and getting it in more than just 3D printing. Now, I forgot the vendor, he's on the corner over here. He does some of the best head scans I've seen yet. Yeah, so he did like yours and Dee's, right? Yeah. So it's there. Like those guys are great. If you want to get your own custom head, that's great that that's available. I don't think we're going to see it in a large scale like Hasbro tried to do in quite a while. I could be incredibly wrong about that, and who knows, Mattel or something could be working on something. But again, they're one-offs. When you think about production, the name of the game is quantity. So I know, with Hasbro they had existing bodies, so at least you have the quantities there. But you're still doing a one-off head. So I think that stuff is always going to be if you want it, there's ways to get it. I don't think it's going to be a service by a big company that's offering it. Especially like if it'd be crazy if something like was able to be developed where they scan your head and it cuts like maybe a quick aluminum mold. So there's steel molds, there's aluminum molds. Steel molds is what I use because you have the longevity with steel. Aluminum is for if you're doing a short run, maybe 1,000 pieces, maybe 500. So the G.I. Joe Collectors Club, when they would do their new parts, they would be done on aluminum molds because they were cheaper and they were only doing a small run. So if there was something where you got scanned and it immediately CNC'd a quick aluminum mold, and then you shot plastic into it, that could be viable. But again, you're gonna have a big setup for that. So it's, I think there's a lot involved for just one single head.
Do you have any plans to introduce more ladies for the exhibition?
Yep, more ladies are coming. I just got some 3D of this new pack of ladies, maybe a 3-pack of ladies that I'm working on. I'm gonna show it at DFW. Yeah.
Do you have any plans to do any field gear like laptops and things like that they might be using for some of the special teams?
So actually, we're going bankrupt. The line's ending, and we're not doing anything else anymore. Yeah. So I'm working on something that will be able to introduce more non-like weapon gear into the line. Okay.
It's a third. You hear it, right? It's the third question. Anyway, Sergeant Saga, you worked with him in the past as a celebrity. Who are 5 people you want to, let's just say you decide to do it again, 5 people you would want to bring into action?
Obviously, somebody came late to class and missed that question.
I did, so I want to hear it again.
Oh no, I'm not answering it again. You can watch it on the replay.
See, this is why people call you mean, Bobby.
Well, I'm not catering to the weak here. So I talked about how, there's a new line that I'm going to announce at DFW, and I got a licensing agreement with an actor that I really like to be in the line. And it's not a Brad Pitt. It's not like Don't Go Crazy. It's someone I love, and I love the show he was on. And maybe when you hear it, you'll like, oh, okay, I get that.
Napoleon Dynamite?
No. So, but again, it's not. I'm not always actively looking for celebrities to put in the line. To me, it's more of a if it works and if it's something I want to do. Like for instance, this actor. Like, I think he's great. He should be in more movies. He's not a well-known actor. I bet you maybe there's like 2 people in this room that will know who he is. And my wife's like, why are you doing that? He's not going to help you sell any more figures. I said, because I can work with this guy and I can make him an action figure and it's something cool for me. So the figure is totally for me. 100% for me. So I spent all this money to get the likeness to be able to do it just for me. Now granted, he's a really cool looking character. But again, it's for me. But yeah, it's like, look, we were really close to landing Gina Carano, which would have been pretty awesome. Then she got really flaky, and I was like, I'm glad I'm not working with her. But again, people would have went nuts if we got Gina Carano in line. And this was right after she left Disney. So it was right on the heels of that, we were talking to her. I was on a call with her, and she was all about it. And then when it came time to give her the contract, she was like, I don't know. And then her agent was like, yeah, she's a mess. So, but it would have been cool. But again, if it's the right fit, then I'll do it. But I don't have like a list of, even the guy that I got into the new line. It wasn't like I had this list of, I got to put him in the line, but it just so happened I was developing and I was like, it'd be really cool. Well, actually, the way it happened was I had gotten him to do voiceover for the trailer to announce the new line because he's got an amazing voice. And after I got him to do the voice, I was like, it'd be really cool if I could do his likeness on a figure. And I shot him an email, and he's like, yeah, man, that'd be really cool. I was like, all right, let's go. So that was it. Yeah.
What's the best figure?
Oh my God. If I did an Alexa Bliss figure, I would just end the line. I'd stop. I'd retire. I'd be like, I'm done. I got to Everest. I'm good. I'm done. So.
I have a two-fold question. For 2025, first one is, any personal goal for Valla, what you want to think? And then the second part is, what goal you want to think for Valla? They can be two separate things. It doesn't have to be always the same.
So my goal for 2025 and a goal for Valaverse for 2025? Now you're confusing me. Let's see. For Valaverse, there's a couple. I mentioned something about $27.99 figures.
Yes. Do not quote.
Don't quote. I listen. Not quoting it. I'm saying it is. I am actively talking with our factory partners. I hired a pit bull to be, like a kind of a business partner as far as like handling that kind of stuff. He went with me to China and he was holding my hand there while I was dying. And he's been doing the China negotiations for decades. So, we are looking into a lot of things. We're pushing back, trying to constantly negotiate costs. Because when you have a production company, you don't just take the costs. I fight on every single thing. Because that's the only way you're going to survive. That's the only way you're going to be able to do what you want to do is if you fight for every single penny. Everything is a negotiation. Everything. They know it. They expect it. They've been doing it for years, and they expect it from me to negotiate everything. Every quote. I'm like, nope. So that's a goal. I don't know if we'll get there in 2025, but 2026 might seem realistic. Also, I want to see how the tariffs go after this 90 days, like what's going to happen there. So there's a lot to kind of figure out, but I think we are making the right moves to get there, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I want to get into mass retail. It's like I'm constantly having conversations with Walmart and Target. But again, it's a situation where they're like, well, do you have, the line's selling really well and your numbers are great, but do you have any entertainment? Because you think about like Target and Walmart, there's one toy aisle, maybe like 1.5 if you count like the video game aisle, and then it's like, you get the area over by the DVDs with some collector stuff where like NECA is, but there's like everyone's fighting for every little bit of that. So we're just trying to get there. Now again, this new license that I just signed, hopefully will get us there. I'm going to announce movie stuff at the DFW panel, which is still very much happening and still very close to becoming an absolute reality. And so, in due time, it's like I work really, really fast and I want everything to happen yesterday, but that's not the way everyone else works. So it's like, all right, well, we'll go at your pace, I guess. And, but yeah, getting the mass retail is another big one. Personal for me, I'd like to take some more vacation. I'm really busy. I have a pile of comic books and some old video game systems that I have in the office that just have dust on them because I never have time to stop and actually do. I tell myself, I said, all right, every Thursday I'm going to take an hour out of my day and I'm going to read some comic books. Never happens. I'm just too busy. So eventually, for me personally, I'd like to be less busy.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that we're looking forward to next month's show. Very much so, with all the teasers that's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be a great show. We have 2 questions. Hold on, Mr. Alvin.
So with you mentioning the movie,
Yeah.
Would you want to hire actors for the movie to play the characters you've already created? Or would you rather create new characters based on those actors that you can then turn into toys later?
I think it's going to be a combination of characters. So I think it's always smart to introduce new characters when you're dealing with a movie property, but you also have to have the fan favorites. So, we have a lot of characters. Obviously, Condor is definitely going to be in the movie. Eclipse is definitely going to be in the movie. But it's like, then you have to start getting to the point where, all right, well, who do we introduce? Who do we do? Now, the interesting thing is, there's a character with a katana in the line, Senshi. Senshi was created when we wrote the script for the movie. And then I put him into the line before the movie came out. So he was developed for the movie, but then ended up getting into the line beforehand. So no one knows that yet. Now you know. So it's kind of like a reverse, Uno kind of thing.
Who would you get to play Condor?
We have a list. So we have like this, our deck that me and the director and the producer, and we have like actors on it. And it's like, you'll see someone, you're like, oh, that guy. And it's like, well, okay, he'd be really good, but he looked really good. So it's like, narrowing it down. It's like, you never know. I don't have like a dream casting. There's a lot of good people that could fit the role.
So what I'm hearing is there's still time for audition. It's not closed. That's what he said. You can call them in that.
So, since I was cut off at 3 questions, I did a phone in from a friend.
Okay.
My friend Ryan, what's it like being friends with a big time YouTuber like this?
Sometimes we all have these friends. We should probably record this for him. Sometimes we all, everyone has that friend that you kind of feel bad for. You're just like, oh man, that guy, I don't like him, but I feel bad for him. I'm like, oh man, he's really in bad shape, and he's just not a good guy. He's not all there, and you almost feel like you need a good deed, like a charity case in a way. And I felt like that's how my relationship with Laser Pants is I just feel bad for him. I see him on the street corner. It's like, I want to get him a cup of soup or something like that. I want to help that guy out because I really feel bad for him. But again, he's not doing anything to help himself. So my charity's starting to wear thin on him. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have a lot of positive things to say about him. So hopefully he doesn't hear it. But
All right, you guys, we're almost up in the time. Leon, you got a question for the question?
Yeah, I do.
All right, last question.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So with Hasbro talking about moving away from toys, have you considered purchasing the actual G.I. Joe brand from them, CEO to CEO?
So we've had these hypothetical talks, me and business partner. The problem is while they may not value their own IP enough to do what they should be doing with it, if someone wanted the IP, they would want the world for it. So I know there is a company that tried to get the brand from them, and they said, no, we're not giving it up, and we don't want to license it out at this point. But again, I think if they did, it would be a ridiculous amount of money. More money than I think anyone would find value in. I think about I'm like, man, what did the loyal subjects pay for Mask? Now again, Mask isn't as big of a property as G.I. Joe is, so maybe they got it on a discount. But I don't know, you never know. I mean, when it's your brand, you shouldn't, yes, you can license parts of it out, but you should always be the one doing the thing you're good at. So the fact that they're like, oh, we don't know what to do with Power Rangers, well, we'll let Playmates do it. Okay, you're a toy company. You're a toy company that's not making toys. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, one more. I'm good. What's the current status of the Lucas?
I'll talk about it at DFW.
All right, guys, with that, we're going to end our thing. So, quick recap. Which recap? You're not focused on up with the $27.99. There are a lot of excitement at DFW, so if you can make it, please do. And the audition is still open. Mr. Valla, do you have any last words before we end?
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for coming to the show. Thank you guys for coming to the panel. I love all of you. I love coming out here and seeing you guys as fans and talking with you guys. And, so thanks again for coming. Ishcon was awesome.